Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shift, Real Stories, Real People, Real Transformation. I'm really excited and delighted, as I always am, to welcome my guest today. Her name is Danna Beal. Danna and I met about 15 years ago because of her second book. It was called The Extraordinary Workplace, and I heard Danna being interviewed. And I was so taken with her message and her authenticity that I knew I had to buy her book. It's a wonderful, wonderful book about bringing love to the workplace and being our authentic selves. And just before I hit record, Danna made the comment that she and I do not have to prepare much for our conversations because we're both authentic, which I take as a real compliment coming from Danna. And as I think I mentioned, we've never met in person. I've been to Washington State, where she lives, and she's actually been to Halifax as a speaker. But that was before we met each other through her book. I will read an introduction for Danna. And her tagline is enlightened leadership, keynotes, workshops, retreats, and coaching. Danna has her master's in education, and she has spoken to audiences throughout the United States and Canada. Her wish is that her profound message will shift your perspective of the workplace and give you the steps to, number one, rebuild relationships and infuse the workplace culture with trust, respect, and compassion. 2, illuminate the barriers and unravel the internal conflict between employees that prevent engagement, teamwork, performance, and commitment. And last but not least, Danna's mission is to replace fear-based management with her Be Love model of leadership, the foundation that elevates respect, collaboration, high performance, and success. So join me in welcoming Danna Beal. And Danna, you're obviously accomplished in many areas of your life. I know you've written 3 books. But I'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit by completing this sentence. I am.
I am love. I am a Valentine birthday individual, and I am love. I share love. I teach love. And actually, we are all love. That's our source. That's our power, this universal love.
So tell me how you came to that recognition that we are all love.
Well, Sheila, I was mentioning to you before we started, I've been very professional for all my life, but the last 25 years, I've been speaking to such professional business audiences and conferences all over the United States and even Halifax. And I've never really revealed very much about how I have come to know what I know. And I've had people all over the country, even in audiences, raise their hand and ask me, how do I know? So it's interesting you're asking me this question because I asked my own inner guidance, and I was told to just say, I received this information in a state of inspiration or a state of grace, because I did not want to challenge anyone's thought system or their religions or their belief systems. And so I've been very, in a way, private about my inner guidance. And I am now finally actually wanting to share with people more about my source, because I know we all have a source like that, our deep source of love.
So tell me more about that. It feels like you're coming out of some sort of closet.
I am exactly. That's perfect words. Because I'm on a professional stage most of the time, I've been really reticent to say this, but I'm going to explain it now. I have had inner voices, for since 1981. Actually, intuition and amazing experiences even before that. But in 1981, I was awakened and told to write down this information, and I could hear it in my head, but it wasn't my voice. It was coming from just like a stream of consciousness. And I was told to write everything down, that I would be sharing information with people that would help them, but to be careful with whom I discuss it for two reasons. One was the IWDT syndrome. And I said, what is that? And they said that I will doubt too syndrome. If I share this, people will say that's unbelievable. And they said, and secondly, you don't want to threaten other people's thought systems or belief systems, as I said a few minutes ago. Because if you threaten someone, they're not open to listening. So I have been careful with whom I share this information. But I'm ready now and guided to share more openly, to help everybody reach their deepest inner voices that are coming from our connection to a higher consciousness.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us, Danna. I'm quite honored, actually, that you're opening up about it on this Shift channel. It's funny because I wrote in my newsletter today about comfort zones and how I too am now ready to talk more about the big yes as being your enlightened self. And I don't know about you, but I was trained in processes about how to push people out of their comfort zones. And I never felt comfortable doing that, because comfort zones, as your guidance told you, can be, if we come too far, too fast, we can threaten other people's belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me that we've both come to this place on our journey, on our path, at kind of the same time. And it's, to me, it's something about timing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, yes. Although I do have to add, my timing, my personal timing, is always quicker than what I'm told. I expect things to happen faster, and I now see that we're in a shift that's slowly changing, and we're at a peak right now of extreme polarity. And so I agree with you. The timing for us is coming where we are ready to share, because there are people really needing and wanting to hear what we're sharing. Is that how you feel?
Yes, I think there's, again, it's almost hard to put into words, but it's something like we had to wait. There was a part of us that was ready. Yeah. There was a part of us that understood. And yet there was a part of us that also said, no, this is not the right time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I quoted in my newsletter, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about a conductor in, I heard at a coaching conference years ago, his name was Ben Zander, and beautiful speaker. And he's a conductor with the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, elegantly dressed in a tuxedo, and he talked about living beyond the effort zone. But he said the word. He said the effort. So again, it's something about, yes, living beyond the effort zone when the timing is right.
Yes.
It's almost like divine timing and waiting for just the right moment. So tell me more, because I know, you and I've been having a friendship for 15 years. So tell me more about where your guidance comes from.
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked, because the few people that I do share it with, they actually call me and ask me more details. So I think your audience will find it interesting too. I had the inner guidance that basically helped me with my own life. Although I did get, things that were really philosophically beyond my own daily understanding. But in 2000, the year of the millennium, on January 21st, I was awakened in the middle of the night. And I know this is going to sound really hard to imagine, but there were beings around the end of my bed. And they were like in my mind's eye, but they were there. I could see my bedroom. It had double doors. They were across there. I was single. I was alone. And they were smiling. And they told me, Danna, it's time to do the work you said you would do. And we want you to write everything down. And they began dictating a book. And this is the first, well, they told me this was primordial. This was been long planned. It's my destiny. I had already promised to do this. They told me, don't you remember when we were together and we said, who will do this work in the workplace? And we proclaimed it would be you, and you accepted. Well, I don't remember that, but they're telling me that. I couldn't just make that up out of my head. And they had told me other times that I would be doing work that had to do with spirit and business. But this became very specific, and they told me the purpose of the work was, this book is about rebuilding relationships in the workplace by honoring the spirit in ourselves and others that is residing beneath our self-created identities. These identities, you know exactly how this goes, the identities battle and compete for power and validation. But someday, when we can replace fear with trust and compassion, people everywhere can be restored to their true self, their inner spiritual greatness. To that end, this book is created. And that it just was flawless. And that's in the beginning of each of my books, because that's what it's about. And it's really about relationships for all people. I just happen to be working in the workplace, but now I'm sharing it for all relationships, families, just like you share. Coaching, we coach with individuals about relationships, not just the workplace.
And as you speak, Danna, I think what stands out for me, and probably for anybody that's listening to this, is the deep understanding and wisdom that you share. And you say it it's very profound, and yet it's very understandable. And I think that's a gift you have. I really, really do. But I have to ask you, because I'm sure people are listening and saying, what? She woke up and there were all these people in her bedroom smiling at her? Like, what? WTF? What was that like?
Yeah.
Were you scared? What was that about?
I had a mixture of feelings. I felt deep joy. I felt deep love coming from these beings. I felt familiar. I felt I felt comforted. I felt we're with you. We are part of you. You are a part of us. We're going to help you every step of the way. I had no idea that I was going to do this book and that I would speak. I'm not exaggerating. I've spoken to thousands of people on stages all over the United States, in every major city. And I never would have imagined I was going to do that. And they gave me profound confidence.
Mm.
And when I'm speaking and I'm looking at people's eyes, I connect with them. And that's one of my suggestions to some of these really big audiences and high leadership people, is to look at others in the eye. And I don't mean in I'm a cool business person way. I mean, truly look at people's eyes. When you're in the grocery store, when you're walking in the hall at work, when you're with your families, so often we just look at the external. If you start paying attention to everybody's eyes, you'll see the common humanity. And that's what we're here for now, is to help bring this world. We're in a shift in consciousness that create a better world where we recognize all human beings, we're all equal, we're all exactly the same, just different versions expressing ourselves. But right now, we have never been more divided.
What's that about?
You and I both know it's fear. We're afraid of anything different. Anybody that has a different idea, but it's become so extreme that's why I think the shift is actually going to be tipping over now, because this toxic misogyny, racial, divisive, horrible, condemning language of each other. It's never been, I don't think in history, I'm told this is an evolution in the planet like it's never been never happened before. And there's an infusion of energy from beyond this dimension helping us right now to bring about this shift, to bring about a change in the whole structure, a paradigm shift. So when we're feeling afraid, like you and I were talking about, it's like we've already agreed to be here and help. And that people like you and I and many of the people that are listening to us, we're part of this shift to participate and help bring about the consciousness. And I believe and have been told we need more feminine consciousness to combat the masculinity that's gotten out of proportion, that has gone to such extreme points, such extreme levels of wanting to be in power with corrupt ways and lies and benefiting those at the top, when our real goal should be to benefit all people.
So it's almost like you're saying that we need to experience this to make the final shift. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And it's beyond what I imagined it would look like. But even people that, I am a very social person. I have so many friends, and I have sisters and a brother. I have 6 kids in my family. Even people that aren't spiritual are saying, oh my God, maybe this is what will wake people up. And they don't realize that's really exactly what's happening.
So what do you think, if there's an individual listening to this who is, they're tired of hating, they're tired of being afraid, they're tired of being at odds with their neighbor, what can they do? What's a step they can take, or what would make an individual, what advice could you give an individual who says, I'm tired of hating? What do you do?
That is the most significant thing you ask, because everything I'm saying is, I think, really amazing, and it's showing that there's so much beyond our little lives, that as an individual, each one of us, what we can do is look within. And when we look within, and when we become present and connect with our deepest soul, I call it the unification of the soul. We have forgotten that we are a soul, because when we're in fear, we operate from the ego. So facing and deeply going within, and it often means going through the shadows, seeing parts of our own self we don't like, the things that our fears and weaknesses tell us, or we believe are our fears and weaknesses. We try to cover them up, and then we end up projecting them outward. So that's what we're seeing, some of these leaders that are blaming other countries. I'm in the United States. Our leader is blaming Canada. And all of this is projection. So how do we change it? Each one of us individually discovers our own fears and weaknesses. And when we operate and connect with our loving consciousness, what I call the be love model, or the connecting with universal love, we become more powerful and strong and courageous to stand up for truth. So the way I see it is there is really, there's some mutual engagement going on that's reaction, counter reaction, reaction, counter reaction. But when you connect with your deepest self, you step out of that and you step above it, so to speak, or you could say even beneath it as a foundation of truth. And that truth is courage. That truth is unshakable. That truth is the power of all it is. And that truth is what needs to stand up to this ego battle that's going on, not just in our country, but on the entire planet.
It's true. It's true. You reminded me that years ago when I first started to get more conscious about ego and love and hate and fear, that I read Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. And I know you're familiar with Marianne and A Course in Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
But I read this, gosh, it must be 30 years ago. And it just struck me because she said most of us are afraid to look within.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're afraid we will find only darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But in truth, if we look deeply enough, we will find only love. And I know at the time I was having somebody, one of my crazy stories, somebody had thrown something at me in the workplace. And I thought, oh, so if I'm only love, he is only love too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult sometimes to remember that when we see somebody acting totally out of ego, totally out of fear, and to remember that somewhere within that person, there is love.
Yes.
And I heard someone say the other day that we don't serve humanity. We don't serve the collective consciousness when we express hate about any individual, because honestly, I see that a lot about the leader of your country. People are saying, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And I get it. I mean, you get it. We get it. Yeah, it's easy sometimes just to hate and find all the reasons to hate. But what I hear from you is a call to love.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, no matter how bad the behavior is, if we can extend love in some small way, that
Mm-hmm.
can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And exactly. We can extend it. We work within ourselves to take out the shadows and remove the filters so that we can shine love. And then when we go out into the world, we're shining love. And a good place to practice is just with the people in our own family. I mean, who can trigger more anger or upset than our teenagers in our families, our brother-in-laws, our mother-in-laws, our even our own brothers and sisters? I see so many families that are in conflict. And if we can work on seeing that everyone is just expressing themselves the best they can from where they're at, but we're all really the same, we can start to heal families, heal all kinds of relationships, and that ultimately will impact the entire collective consciousness. And love is more powerful than fear or pain and the weakness of the ego.
Yes, which is hard to understand sometimes. So does that mean that we just ignore the bad behavior?
No, that's one of the things I think some people believe, that being spiritual is to just go around being nice. But love is powerful. Love is strong. We've watched some very strong women who've been so courageous to stand up. That some people call it truth to power. And that's what we need right now. And I'm afraid we're seeing a lot of cowardice in our government. We're seeing people everywhere, just giving up. They're afraid to look. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to. The fear makes us weak. Love makes us strong. And when we're strong, we can describe, we can discuss, we can explain, we can stand up for truth and what's best for all people. And we're not blind. When we are operating from love, we're not blind. Our eyes are wide open. And we need more of that.
I love that. We're not blind to what's going on, but we can come from love rather than coming from fear.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, and it's not easy. It's easier. That I often say that the ego is kind of like a little child that wants to be asleep, doesn't want to wake up. And the dream it's more comfortable being the dream. But the dream is turned into a nightmare now. And so people are being forced to wake up. People that weren't paying any attention suddenly are saying, what is going on? And it's the comfort of operating from love is you're in a level of trust. I've discovered throughout my life that trusting in the unknown, always comes through for me. I've had so many miracles. I signed my signatures, miracles, love, and laughter, because miracles come through when we're operating from love. I've had 2 different times landlords telling me they're going to sell the house I'm renting, and both times I immediately, without even looking, somebody would tell me out of the blue the most perfect place to live, and I would go to that place, and it's a water view, and I'm so happy. So I trust that no matter how bad things look, whenever there's people in the workplace, when they lose their job or they have conflict, because there's so much pain and suffering in the workplace as well as the world. If we just trust, instead of trying to figure everything out, and stand in truth and be present, we will bring to us what we need.
Yeah, it's a different energy.
Yes, exactly.
It's a different energy, and I can't say I'm a big follower of the law of attraction, but I know enough about it that one of the teachings is energy attracts like itself. So that if we're coming from love, we tend to attract loving experiences. And if something shows up that challenges that, then just staying in that energy of love, peace, calm, will lead to a better outcome, a better solution. Because what I hear you saying is that you trust yourself.
Yes.
You trust yourself that things are going to work out somehow in your favor, type of thing. Yes.
And there's no one out there that's my savior. I'm my savior. And as my own savior, I then am strong enough to help other people wake up and find their own strength. And I don't know the answer for everybody. When I'm coaching, or I'm sure you know this too, you're outstanding coach. When we're listening to other people, we know that they know. We're just there to guide them to look within and discover their own next steps. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to sound like I'm predicting everything that's going to happen, but we have been told really through decades and even centuries about changes on the planet. And I've been told for the last 25 years that this shift is happening and that we're all part of it, and that this is a transcendent time. We're going to transcend the current framework or paradigm that we're living in. And I just thought it would happen more quickly, but I believe that's the path we're on. Well, I'm just like you. We're all individuals with our own little stories and drama and expectations, but on a deep level, I know that everything that is happening is purposeful and will bring us to a better world.
So we haven't talked about your current book, The Illuminated Workplace. So how did that come to be?
Well, it's really a revision and a modernization of the extraordinary workplace, because I call my guidance the 12 wise ones. because I don't have a name for them. You could call them angels, you could call them guides, you could call them my brethren and sisters, and they're very very angelic. They're very loving. But they told me that my book was more relevant than ever and that it needs to be redone and updated. And they've also told me for at least 10 years that there is, they call it Project Illumination. And even though we can't see it, it's well on its way. So that's the good news. It's well on its way. And so my new book is called The Illuminated Workplace, Shining Light on Workplace Culture, because we need to really put a light on this dysfunction and the corruption in businesses. And it's you know, I watch as leaders and CEOs and people at the top, are making these just extraordinary amounts of money while they are continuing to, the disparity between the top and the workers has gotten so great, and it's continuing. And so I redid my book. It's available. It's The Illuminated Workplace. It's available as a printed book. Some people really like a book to hold. It's available as an Audible book, and it's available as a Kindle. And so it came out in just a year ago, a little over a year ago. And it's got modern stories and current.
And I know that it's not only about shining light on the corruption, but shining a light on how to get through it and how we can individually and collectively can work together, Project Illumination, to maybe speed it up a little bit. that's my ego. Let's speed this up.
Well,
Yes.
it is. I agree that my wise ones have described that there is a faction of people like you and I, and anyone really that's listening to this, that is why we're here, to help accelerate this expansion. And that they describe the current culture, societal structure, as like a honeycomb, that it looks real, but it actually is being held up by very few leaders in the world, I would add. And this once busy habitat that was our planet, that was interacting and so much progress is made, and civilizations have expired and new things have happened. But right now, the societal structure is about to crumble. But not to be afraid, because this new world, this new paradigm, this new consciousness of people like us are rebuilding a new world, and it's going to be there. And it's not like we need to be afraid, but we need to recognize the old model is crumbling and unraveling, and we're watching that.
I absolutely believe that the old, and it's hard. It's hard for the people who want to maintain that old structure, maintain that old paradigm. They don't want to give it up.
No.
And that's, they're resisting change, and they're calling it, making things great again, and make it the way it used to be. It's not going to be that way. So thank you, Danna and 12 Wise Ones, for being with me today. I imagine they're with you all the time.
Yeah.
I have this crazy question. Yeah, I have this crazy question. Do they have anything they want to say before we stop recording?
Well, what just came to me is they say our joy is their joy.
Oh.
And they are there. All of our guidance is there anytime we want it. It's not somewhere else. It's just a different vibration. And that includes our departed loved ones too. Everyone that we have known in our lives that we loved are with us at a moment's notice. And our joy is their joy.
What a beautiful note to end our conversation with. Wow, thank you so much. And I will put links to your books and your website in the notes with this video. And we'll continue this conversation, I'm sure.
Well, Sheila, you have been such a wonderful friend. And like we said, we've never met in person, but I feel like we've been friends for many lifetimes. And I really appreciate you having me on today on your wonderful show and giving me the platform to share something that I rarely do.
Well, I've got a feeling you're going to be sharing it more often. And I really send a lot of energy for Project Illumination. And I agree that it is probably time that we come out of the closet and do more. Yes, so we'll talk more about that. And until we meet again, thank you.
Thank you.
My friend. It's
My
such
friend.
a pleasure. It's such a pleasure to connect with you. Take care.
Thank you.